a rapid escalation of diplomatic crisis as far as India and Canada tensions are concerned. Canada has issued and updated a travel advisory for its citizens in India, urging them to remain vigilant and exercise caution. Now, Canada claims that the move comes in response to their growing concern over the protests and the negative sentiment towards their country on social media within India. Now, this is the second time that Canada updated its travel advisory in just 5 days, and the Indian visa services have been temporarily suspended by Canada. Now, this development follows India's advisory issued just 5 days ago, cautioning the nationals and the students residing in Canada. Meanwhile, security has also been tightened at the Indian missions in Canada amid Khalistani supporters' protest. The spark for the heightened tension can be traced back to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's explosive allegations suggesting potential involvement of Indian agents in the killing of the Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. My colleague Pradeep Dutta is joining me live right now to get us more details. Well, Pradeep, it appears that Canada has once again updated its travel advisory, but they are worried about the sentiment against Canada in India. Why are they worried about the sentiment against Canada in India, especially on social media, when they are trying to carry out a case of doublespeak, when on one hand they continue making baseless allegation against India, and on the other hand they want to maintain friendly ties with India?
See, what I understand is that the Canada is sailing right now on two boats. On one hand, they are trying to appease those Khalistani terror elements who are putting up on the Canadian soil. And on the other hand, they're also trying to keep good relationship with India. But see, they're not learning their lesson. On one hand, they're allowing their protests also. I think the Six for Justice, they are going with the protests. And they have also tried to heighten the securities by barricading those areas, whether it's the consulate in Ottawa, whether it's in Toronto, or whether it's in Vancouver. But that's not really enough, because if you're coming with tit-for-tat advisory, what about the things that are taking place in the Canadian soil? Because from time to time, India has been giving you the dossier about involvement of many of those Khalistani terrorists, including Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Because India is a democratic country. India believes in taking issues legally. And that's what government of India had been doing for the last several years, despite extradition treaty between the two countries that was signed in 1985. Not a single person so far has been deported, including the people who were involved in Kanishka bombing. The reason is that they always try to provide safe haven to these Khalistani elements because they continued with appeasement politics. They wanted to keep them in good humor only for vote bank. And that's what exactly what the Trudeau senior did. And even the junior Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, is also doing the same thing. His father also did same thing in 80s. He's also doing the same thing. History is repeating itself. So it is time they should have gone for the crackdown against such elements and sent a message loud and clear that we are not with the terror-related countries. But it will not be wrong if I call that it is a Pakistan in Western countries, because Canada is doing the same way what actually the Pakistan had been doing. They indulge in the terror-related activities. They provide them safe haven. Pakistan had also been denying it. Then they go for deflection, and that's what Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is also doing. By providing security is not enough. You should have come down heavily on all those Six for Justice elements who are going for the protest. What for? They want to have a protest.
Absolutely. Well, Pradeep, stay with us as we're getting some more information regarding the modus operandi of these Khalistani terrorists and their groups operating in Canada. And I'll come back to you for more on it, because as per sources, the slain terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar and the other pro-Khalistani elements in Canada have been using gullible Punjabi youth in Canada to carry out their pro-Khalistani agenda from Canadian soil. They lured the Punjab youth by sponsoring visas in lieu of exploiting them for doing pro-Khalistan activities in Canada. Human traffickers who are aligned with the Khalistani elements seem to have an edge when it comes to securing Canadian visas as compared to ordinary Indians. Pro-Khalistanis offer them shelter and low-scale jobs for sustenance using Gurudwara resources. But the Khalistani elements, the extremists, have been operating freely from Canadian soil for nearly 50 years now in the garb of notions like freedom of expression or political advocacy. Over the period of time, over the period of years, Khalistani extremists got further emboldened and started operating with impunity from Canada, and even murders of pro-Indian elements is not taken seriously by the Canadian authorities. However, trivial human rights issues are raised volubly by K-lobby actively backed in Canada. soft peddling of Khalistanis ensured that moderate and pro-Indian Sikhs were thrown out of all gurudwaras in Canada by the muscle and money power. And in the last decade, links of Canada-based Khalistani extremists have emerged in more than half of the terror cases reported from Canada. My colleague Pradeep Dattasal continues to be with us. Well, Pradeep, I just told you about the kind of modus operandi that the Khalistani, the extremist groups are operating in Canada, but they're luring young, ambitious youth from Punjab, and then they are using them. They are gullible individuals who have just come to Canada to try and further their agenda. Do you think this was happening without the knowledge and notice of the Canadian authorities? Because they let this brew under their nose for close to 50 years now.
I think that's happening because I've been interacting with many of our relatives are also putting up many of those pro-India elements, the Sikhs who are there. They're seeing that most of the Gurdwaras right now are occupied by this Khalistani elements. It is because of this reason they do not feel like going to Gurdwara Sahib because Gurdwara Sahib is being used as a power center and also as indoctrination centers because it's always used for spewing venom against India because whosoever is going to Gurdwara Sahib, they always try to indoctrinate, brainwash them and try to push them towards the Khalistani organizations. That's what they're doing. The second is that many of the youngsters in Punjab, they're always looking for the greener pasture. They want to go to these countries and see what these Khalistani elements, they're providing them visas. As you rightly said, they provide them those menial jobs. They're not getting the good job. They're getting the menial jobs. And all of a sudden, they realize that they have fallen into the trap of those Khalistani elements who want them to be used for the terror-related activities. And Pakistan's inter-service intelligence is helping them because it is not many of the journalists in Canada, they have written about this thing, that this Khalistan is nothing but this is a project of Pakistan's inter-service intelligence. And Canadian government has been helping them, providing them support directly, indirectly. Reason being that because they had always been looking at the vote bank politics because they feel that these elements can influence the society and they can help them gather votes during the election. That's exactly what Justin Trudeau is doing, and he has been facing the flag back home because of this reason, because many people are asking questions because is vote bank politics more important or it is the security of the region? Because when all these countries came together for G20, also that time also they decided that they have to fight against terror-related elements because there's nothing called good terrorism, bad terrorism. Already United States of America has realized their blunder and mistake which they had been committing in the past. Now I think it is high time for the Canada also to realize that stop feeding this Frankenstein monster who had been luring these impressionable minds and pushing them towards the gun culture. See what there's a nexus between human traffickers, there's a nexus between these gangsters and these Khalistani terrorists. See all of them working together under the umbrella of Pakistan's inter-service intelligence, and Pakistan inter-service intelligence, you know why they're using, because they don't have any kind of a love for Punjabis or Sikhs. Basically, they know that most of the Sikhs had been part of the Indian army and they had been there defending the borders of the country. And it is because of them that they're 65, they had to face a loss in 71. So they want to create a wedge, they want to break the backbone of India by just trying to indoctrinating Sikhs and pushing them towards anti-India elements. But I think this is high time when the Sikhs who are going to that place, they also need to understand, because if we talk about the majority of Sikhs, they do not need any kind of a license either from Pakistan or but yes, these elements are trying their level best to vitiate atmosphere so that they can carry forward their agenda just for the crumbs being thrown at them by the Pakistan's inter-service intelligence, just for money. It has nothing to do with ideology, it has nothing to do with religion.
Well, it's about time that the Indians also remain vigilant against this nefarious designs of the Khalistani elements in Canada. Well, Pradeep, thank you for getting us all those details. We shall leave it at that for the moment.